fool that illuminates suddenly becomes particularly smart? Welcome. The theme today is a question: fool that illuminates suddenly becomes particularly smart? 10 red points question: fool that illuminates becomes very smart, instant, with his enlightenment. The illumination, from the point of view of some, is the transition from unconsciousness to consciousness, from darkness to light, from foolishness to wisdom. It is seen as growth. From other points of view, enlightenment is a process that has nothing to do with intelligence. But there is a perceptive lighting, and one regarding understanding, awareness. Enlightenment issue is very complex. Therefore it is hard to understand. People tend to confuse knowledge conferred by reality perception, the accumulation of pieces of knowledge, with intelligence. I want to emphasize that there are two main types of enlightenment: one type perceptive, of the senses, as a widening of the perceptive field, clairvoyance, and one type intellectual, of consciousness as an expansion of the capacity to understand the connections, the causal links. Perceptive enlightenment may present as an extrasensory perception of the material world's energy substrate, and this substrate appears as bright, consisting of bright energy. So perception appears as light energy. So it is a literally enlightenment. The other type is a figurative enlightenment, consciousness enlightenment. A trance state can confer both types of enlightenment, but the perceptive usually occurs faster, easier. Good example: I faced a little, like other people who have acquired clairvoyance, perceptive lighting, the following problem. Perceive something you could not perceive before, but simply cannot understand, interpret correctly, the significance of what you perceive. This is something important, something essential to understand. It is not enough to see much more clearly, because the simple extension of perception not automatically gives you the understanding of what you perceive. Also in the Bible, it is described that several people had visions, saw angels, and worshipped them because they believed that God is, but they were wrong, and they were directly told that they were wrong, and do not have to bow down to the angels. The same way of error is present in the contemporary period, in the case of initiated seers, clairvoyants, or people who become accidental clairvoyants, not through an initiation, which sees through clairvoyance. They say they are enlightened because perceive what others is hidden, but they are wrong often when trying to logically interpret the significance of the things perceived by clairvoyance, also called spiritual vision. Enlightenment is a process, and like any process, depending on conditions, can develop over time, in stages and successive levels, but at a time can trigger a sudden evolutionary leap, unexpected, which may be surprising, shocking. The rule is given by slow development in time, but exceptions strengthen the rule. From this point of view, followers of an initiation system should be ready in time, psychologically, to not suffer a shock mentally destabilizing, if the jump will occur. The fact that the shock can be dangerous psychological standpoint, I say from my own experience. When you're taken by surprise, unprepared for something entirely new, psychological shock can be quite difficult to manage. The less you are prepared, the more difficult it will be to manage the shock. Get ready, so, theoretically, for any practical experience you want to live, as far as you can. Cultivate your self-control continuously and the power of concentration. Learn methods to manage and control emotional states. They did, and do, all the supporters, in every serious initiation systems. So when you're ready to keep your mind and soul under control, no matter what would happen around you, you will be prepared to experience clairvoyance, safe. It is hard to understand for one who has not yet experienced. Many believe they understand, without having experienced, but they are wrong and rushes headlong unconscious. Narrated summary: the experience may seem trivial and insignificant, easily understood and assimilated. Told by another, the living may seem simple and easy to manage. But any strong emotional shock leaves indelible marks, and this is highlighted conclusively whether about something that you'll meet again, often, in this life. Psychological desensitization can occur gradually in time but never achieved a full cancellation. The memory cannot erase completely. In a state of shock, your mind can easily produce, evoke, horrifying pictures that resonate with your state of mind: afraid, fear, dread. The mood of fear or horror will evoke monstrous and threatening images from memory, that may seem real as the real terrestrial world appears to be. In my case, more particular, I was trapped in another world, that I entered progressively, aware, within minutes, and from which I thought can no longer escape, because I do not perceive the terrestrial one at all, not even the human physical body, so ordinary and familiar to us, the people. The perspective of remaining stuck in another world, unknown, dark, in the company of beings perceived as dark shadows, missing so familiar, and your body in a state of float, can be a truly disturbing experience. The better prepared may encounter the experience with a smile on his lips, perhaps. Only the focus of attention, the remembrance, memory, and strong will can help in such cases. For a moment I forgot where I come from, who I was before entering there, where I felt I am entered, completely gone, forgotten even where I had to go back to, reality. Detachment was so great that, actually, I lost all contact with this reality, as I was hooked gradually, but at one point I was totally monopolized by that other reality. For there was, indeed, a different reality. If I couldn't remember, I'd be stuck there, mentally, not knowing where to go back. If you get lost in such experiences, you can stay lost. If you cannot switch attention from that world that can attract and fascinate, and is also the somewhat familiar to you, how can you return? I know cases where people stayed concrete so captive, helpless, not understanding what is happening to them. They were interned in mental hospitals and treated with sedatives, especially. The fact that I remembered where I was before, who I was, and that I expressed mental intention and will to come back here in this reality, in remembrance of me, helped me to recover. I felt I could stay there if I want, if I do not express the intention and willingness to return. Certainly one who is unable to access memories, and who is unable to switch attention from the world wherein there penetrates, cannot be detached from it, and will not go back to the reality, remaining mentally captive in such another world wherein there enters consciously or unconsciously, more or less consciously. 10. Red points question: if you have a reminder of where you came here, you could go back there, instantly, through an effort of will and the expression of intention? Who remembers where he came here from? In this world of amnesiacs. Smiley face. Who can access his older memories, of an earlier moment to his incorporation in this world? Who remembers why is he here? Smiley face. We are or are not prisoners stacked in our attention, granted in full mode to this world, that we cannot detach our attention actually? Fool perceives sensations as properly as an intelligent stimuli coming from the external environment, but he processes them more defective, regarding analysis and interpretation of this information derived from the path of senses. He perceive and observe what happens to it, but not really understand implications of processes and events taking place. Fool processes defective the information coming through the senses. Its processing capacity is limited, blocked, than intelligent. People judge by comparison, and they have different relationship systems, which gives the appearance of relativity, because everything seems relative when you look from different reference systems. Example: a fool among very fools can be considered smart. Smiley face, smarter than others, very stupid. A fool among fools may seem normal, an ordinary man, for other fools. A fool among brilliant people is noticed quickly and seems abnormal, under-evolved, underdeveloped, etc. I conclude with a 10 red dots question, homework regarding the way you personally relate to the silly and stupid people. Is the child stupid, compared to an adult, relative to an adult? Whatever the answer, try to explain to you, why? You can leave your answer below in comments if you want. On the blog, you can also find links to other articles about the Enlightenment, related issues. Here I wanted to emphasize this fact, that there are two main types of enlightenment. The title question, fool that illuminates suddenly becomes particularly smart. It is somewhat rhetorical, because not really heard until now of some fool to enlighten suddenly, isn't it? This process of enlightenment seems to occur at a certain level, so to speak. Here I conclude, and, further, I wish you a wonderful day to you.